I want to specifically acknowledge the work done by Supervisor Mitchell and Council members Harris-Dawson and Price in securing a $60,000 reward for information leading to this arrest. And I want to thank the CHP for being diligent and working hard to solve this case. I also want to thank Tiffany Blacknell from my office for coordinating these efforts and making a difference. The investigation is ongoing. However, there is evidence indicating that this young girl may have been the victim of human trafficking. And this speaks as to why we need to do more for survivors of human trafficking, especially children who are exceptionally vulnerable to the coercive tactics of traffickers. And that work requires that we prosecute human trafficking, but it also requires that we do much more to prevent these crimes in the first place. These are our children as well, and we need to protect them. Tioni was last seen on January the 7th when she reportedly told her father that she was meeting a friend to go to a party. Again, we need the public's help. Please help bring Tioni's murder to justice. And if you have any information, please contact the California Highway Patrol. Alex.
Thank you so much, DA, for those poignant words and for all that you do. Next, we have Los Angeles County Supervisor Holly J. Mitchell.
Good morning, DA Gascón and everyone who's gathered. I appreciate you including me in today's press event. Let me start by extending my heartfelt condolences and deep sense of loss to the family of Tioni Theus. As a mother, as a Black woman, it gives me great sadness to experience this as a community member. And so please know that we stand with you. At yesterday's regularly scheduled board member of the LA County Board of Supervisors, my colleagues unanimously supported the motion I brought forward to bring forward a reward in exchange for information leading to the apprehension and conviction of the person or persons responsible for her death. Ironically, I brought forward several motions, all with the idea of elevating these cases in the eyes of the general public, and really trying to continue to speak their names. While this reward and rewards established by my colleagues in no way alleviates the tragedy that has occurred, it's an incentive to those in the community and beyond to speak up and provide information about what occurred leading up to her January 8th murder. Time and time again, missing and victimized Black women and girls are overlooked and lack the appropriate media attention in comparison to their counterparts. A 2019 College of William and Mary study revealed that cases involving Black people remain open and unresolved 4 times longer than their white counterparts. So from my perspective, it is imperative that we not allow implicit bias or the adultification of Black girls to continue to influence the lack of media coverage or public outrage over their murders. Again, to her family and all those who have lost their loved ones to violence, we are thinking of you and working collaboratively. We will continue to seek justice on your behalf and our collective behalf. And to anyone in the public who might have information that can help investigators, you can leave an anonymous tip at the following number, 888-412-7463. 888-412-7463. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Supervisor. Next, we have LA City Council Member Marquise Harris-Dawson.
Thank you so much, and thank you to our District Attorney Gascón and our Supervisor, Sister Holly Mitchell. I want to thank also the state representatives and my colleague on the City Council, Mr. Curran Price, for joining me and making sure there is a reward for the identification and capture of the assailant that took Tioni away from us just a week ago. In the United States, every month we lose 4 Black girls to violent murders. Last week, one of those girls was our own Tioni. We have to be vigilant in our empathy and not allow a situation to exist where human life is taken from us, human life is abused, or human life is trafficked, and it goes unnoticed, unchallenged, and unconfronted. Our community has to be an active voice, demanding justice for everybody who suffers at the hands of a violent murderer. I'm so grateful to the community members who literally the next day were on the steps of the 77th police station in Los Angeles, demanding that our police department, the California Highway Patrol, the county sheriffs, and everybody get involved to bring this assailant to justice. It is what we owe Tioni, and is what we owe all the children of our community, so that they know they live in a place where if anybody lays a hand on them, the community will rally to their protection and to their defense. And so I'm grateful to be here on what is a sad occasion, but a demonstration of what we can do when our community comes together to defend our children.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Next, we have LA City Council Member Price.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, DA Gascón, for bringing us together. I'm honored to be joined with my elected colleagues. We're standing in unity. We're standing with a solid front as we serve to address the concerns, not just associated with this tragedy, but other tragedies as well. We are fully supporting the efforts for Tioni Theus. The cries of this community have called us here today to be a voice, to be a voice for this child who had her life ripped away in the most horrific way. The leaders have stepped up in a significant way to support the efforts to track down the cowards who took her life. From the $50,000 motion that Marquise and I made yesterday to the efforts of Supervisor Mitchell, we're doing everything we can, but we got to do more to encourage the people to speak up. You got to speak up. So today we're pleading with Angelenos to come forward with any information that will lead to bringing this killer to justice. We know this to Tioni's grieving family, who will no longer get the chance to watch her grow up. They are only left with a gaping hole of what Tioni could have been. I had the honor of speaking to a couple of relatives, well, one relative yesterday, and the family, as you can imagine, is just torn apart. And she was pleading with me, others, anyone who would listen, to do what you can to find the killer, find those who were responsible. No parent should feel the pain, and no parent should have to worry about whether or not their child is going to come home. As a father, as a grandfather, as a godfather, as a friend and mentor to youth, it's difficult. We need to do a better job for Black women, for Black girls, and children of color, which is why later this morning, Councilmember Harris-Dawson and I, and the Civil Rights and Equity Department are going to introduce another motion, in the name of justice and equality. And specifically, we're calling upon the LAPD to provide an equity analysis on the violence and crime facing Black women and Black girls in the city of Los Angeles, and what we're doing to address those issues and how we have solved those problems. We are all too familiar with the disparities that exist, and it's time that government step up. We have to step up for all women and for girls who are oftentimes victimized because of the color of their skin. We cannot stand for it any longer. Tioni, you have our promise. You have not died in vain, and everyone will know your name. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Next, we have State Assemblymember Mike Gibson.
Thank you very much, Alex. I want to thank DA Gascón, Supervisor Holly Mitchell, my colleagues, Kern Price, and also Councilman Harris-Dawson, law enforcement for gathering and providing me to be part of this press conference today. Let me simply say I am damn mad that we are now at having a press conference surrounding the murder that took place on January the 8th on the freeway off of West Manchester Avenue and the on-ramp of South Figueroa Street of Tioni Theus, a 16-year-old child. 16-year-old child. She's someone's daughter that was taken away from us senselessly. And for the cowards who did this, we're going to muster the resources that's necessary to bring you to justice. No family should have to go through losing a daughter, a child in this manner. And we're upset. We're upset, but we galvanize our energy to have this press conference to elevate the reward that exists today. And I want to thank my colleagues for elevating it on your council and the board of supervisors. The state also has a responsibility. I wrote a letter to the governor asking the governor, because through the California legislature has established the crime tip reward program, Penal Code 1547, that allows the governor to offer a reward up to $50,000, leading to the arrest and conviction of the perpetrator that did this. And so we continue to work with the governor's office, to ask the governor's office to utilizing his resources to put $50,000 on the table. She was our daughter, whether or not we've ever known her or not, whether or not our DNA ever matched her DNA with our DNA, whether or not we even knew her name until today. She's our daughter. And we want to send a clear message that we covenant our daughters, our children in this community, and we're saying enough is enough. If you know something, we ask you to say something. We stand with Justice for Murdered Children in calling out for information leading to the arrest of this predator, leading to the conviction of this coward who took our daughter away from us. So I stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters here today, and thank you very much. Justice will prevail.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember. Next, we have CHP Assistant Chief Jesus Holguin.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much to the District Attorney's Office for putting this together and for the invitation. Any help we can get is obviously important and critical to this case. I want to thank all the elected officials also for being here and for your support as we continue with the investigation. As already stated, the incident occurred on January 8th, early morning, where we were called to the scene of a body that was on the on-ramp to the southbound Interstate 10 Manchester Avenue on-ramp. Since then, we've identified the body of 16-year-old Tioni, and we've been working relentlessly 24 hours a day on the investigation. Our major crimes unit is taking the lead investigation. We're also working with allied agencies, and we're exhausting all the leads that we currently have. And we're very confident that we're moving forward in a positive direction and hopefully have some good news in the very near future. In the meantime, I will echo the words expressed here today about the importance of our community to come forward with any information. This incident occurred on a Saturday morning. So there's people that were driving by. There has to be individuals out there that eyewitnessed at least a portion, if not the entirety of this case, and we need your support. Our major crimes unit is prepared to follow up on all the leads. We're prepared for your calls and information. If you can call us, please, at 323-644-9550. That goes directly to our major crimes units, and we'll follow up on your tips. So we really need that information from the community. We know that people are out there witnessed something that we can follow up on and hopefully get to the bottom of this crime as soon as possible. I know Assemblymember Gibson mentioned regarding the California legislature's crime reward program from the governor's office. Just prior to this conference, minutes before, I received notification from Sacramento that the governor has approved the $50,000 for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of a perpetrator related to this crime. So thank you for pushing forward that agenda. I do have confirmation and literally just before we went live on this. So I'm grateful for that and for every other push the rewards. I think that's really going to help hopefully bring some additional information that we can follow up. So thank you very much once again for your support. And I'm hopeful that our community will come through for us and provide us some information. So thank you very much.
That's incredible, Chief. Thank you so much for that great news. I really hope people are listening. That is a very large dollar amount reward for any information. Next, we have a Special Advisor to District Attorney George Gascón, Tiffany Blacknell, who has been spearheading these efforts on behalf of the office. Tiffany?
Thanks, Alex, and thank you to all the electeds on this call. I want to say a warm thank you to the community. Publicly voicing your concern at the vigil and on social media was very powerful. I want to thank my boss, George Gascón, for listening. The night I saw the story go live on social media, I called George immediately, and he was more than willing to stand up and to ask for support from the community to find out who took the life of Tioni. And I appreciate your leadership on this, DA Gascón. And thank you to the electeds who answered the clarion call of the community and stood up to support Tioni and her family and all the friends who loved her. You know, as a mother and mother of Black girls, I know that it takes a village to raise a child. Our village failed to protect Tioni. The mental health system failed her, the education system failed her, the child welfare system failed her, the criminal legal system failed her. We failed her in life, but we cannot fail her in death. If you or someone you know knows what happened to Tioni, please come forward. For those of you who know someone, a child, a teenager that you suspect is being trafficked, please contact law enforcement. And if you're not comfortable with contacting law enforcement, please contact a community-based organization that we've posted on our social media, on our Instagram, to get them help. If you are a survivor of human trafficking, our Bureau of Victim Services stands ready to support you. One of our trained advocates will link you to trauma-informed services that will help you on your path to healing. Being a victim of human trafficking is not a moral failure. Children cannot consent to sex work. Any characterization of Tioni as a prostitute or a sex worker is disgusting. She was a child. Her life mattered. She did not have a choice in this life, sadly. She was hit with a catastrophic incident, her mother being injured and incapacitated, and her life spun out of control. Systems should have been there to protect her, and they were not. But we can do something now. We can prevent the next child from being dumped along a freeway, the next child from being trafficked. If you see something, it is on us all to say something before the killing and after. It's not too late to give Tioni the justice she deserves. Please speak up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Tiffany. Before we get into the questions and answers, and please put your questions in the prompt, I do want to turn it over to the District Attorney for Spanish and for our Spanish-speaking audience. DA?
Thank you, Alex. Buenos días a todos los que están aquí para los medios en español. Primero que nada, quiero darle las gracias a la supervisora Holly Mitchell y quiero darle las gracias a los concejales Harris-Dawson y Councilmember Price que han ayudado para poner una recompensa de $60,000 que ha sido incrementada a $110,000 hoy con la aprobación del gobernador Newsom. O sea, que hay $110,000 de recompensa en este caso. Para cualquier información que podamos obtener, también le quiero dar las gracias al asambleísta Gibson, que fue el que promovió para que el Estado proveera esta recompensa. Y le queremos dar las gracias a la Patrulla de Caminos de California y al jefe Holguín por estar trabajando en este caso. La niña Tioni era una niña de 16 años que fue asesinada y su cuerpo fue tirado en la salida de la Manchester, en el Freeway de Harbor, el día 8, entre el día 7 y el día 8 de enero de este año. Sabemos que esta es una niña que probablemente estaba siendo traficada como en tráfico de humano y que estaba siendo abusada probablemente. Y es muy importante que reconozcamos que cuando es importante encauzar estos casos, pero también es muy importante que la comunidad tiene que unirse, porque cuando un niño o una niña son víctimas, todos los niños y todas las niñas son víctimas y todos los niños son hijos de todos. Nosotros todos tenemos una obligación de proteger a nuestros niños, de proteger a nuestra juventud, y en este caso desafortunadamente no pudimos hacer eso. Y por eso es que hoy estamos pidiendo la ayuda a la comunidad. Si usted vio algo, si usted vio a alguien en un auto, a lo mejor haciendo algo misterioso el sábado por la mañana del día 8 alrededor de la Manchester en el Freeway Harbor, por favor llame a la patrulla de caminos, llame a mi oficina. Queremos saber esa información, es importante, y en estos momentos tenemos una recompensa de $110,000 que se le puede dar a cualquier persona que provee información para este arresto. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much, DA. We have a few different questions, and I would like to show Tioni the respect she rightfully deserves, and I would like to answer those questions first, the questions that really deal with this important issue we're here on today. The first question is, as it relates to that issue, can you provide more information about how you learned Tioni was a victim of human trafficking? And prior to answering to that question, I just want to point out that this case is under investigation and we're limited in what we can say. But Tiffany, is there perhaps something you can add to that?
Sure. There are documents, court documents, that have information indicating that there were circumstances in which she was identified as a CSEC victim, a child victim of sexual exploitation.
And if I may add, Ms. Blacknell, I appreciated your comments earlier acknowledging that children are indeed victims. And so I don't want the media or anyone to get stuck acknowledging the fact that she'd been identified as a CSEC victim. Whether she was or not, she didn't deserve to die. And so from my perspective, as we talk about the adultification of Black girls, I don't want people to get caught up in that piece of the story. She didn't deserve to die. And that's what we all are gathered here today to acknowledge.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I would add that also we all bear responsibility. Human trafficking is not something that is left to a vulnerable person to be able to fix. It is a community issue. And one of the reasons why we're here today is because not only do we want to bring justice for Tioni's killer, well, for Tioni's death and bring the killer to justice, but it's important. We need to come together and understand that we all bear responsibility when vulnerable children are trafficked.
Thank you so much for all of those responses. The next question is, what is the total amount of the reward currently being offered in this case? And it's $110,000 in total, which is a very high dollar amount reward. That is the last question that we have as it relates to this particular matter. Some of the other questions involve, unfortunately, things that are not related to this matter. And some of the questions are written in a very political context. This is an apolitical format. We will not be engaging in politics here. So for those questions that have been asked that way, I want you to understand why this is not the proper format nor the proper place to discuss that. But there is a question about apparently the Orange County District Attorney saying something about OC not being LA County. Again, this is a very distractive question, not a question appropriate for this context. But DA, is there anything that you would want to add to that in any way, shape, or form?
Well, look, I mean, first of all, I want to make sure that we keep the focus here. We're honoring someone that was murdered and trying to bring a point to engage in political rhetoric when we're trying to do the work that we all get paid to do and to protect our community.
Thank you so much, DA.
And if I may step up, I can't see the questions, but I appreciate your response, DA Gascón. And let me restate something I said before about what we're not going to allow. We're not going to allow implicit bias, or the adultification of Black girls to dominate this conversation. We are here to talk about the murder of a 16-year-old Black girl. That's all. We have come together as elected leaders, as the community, to elevate her murder because of the trend we experience where Black women and Black girls' deaths go unacknowledged, underreported, and too often unsolved. So if that can't be the focus and why you're here, then leave. Because we're not going to allow this baby to be disrespected any further.
And I want to second the district attorney and our county supervisor. If you are here to kick dirt on Tioni's grave after she's been brutally murdered, then we've got no business speaking to each other. The idea that trafficking, prostitution, a probation record, any of that, or the fact that you lost an election some time ago comes up in the context of this conversation is tantamount to kicking dirt on someone's grave. And so I'm glad that that's been rejected, and I appreciate the way it's being handled on this call.
Thank you all so much for all of those answers. We have a couple of clarification questions about the breakdown of the reward. That's $10,000 from the County of LA, $50,000 from the City of LA, and another $50,000 from the state. So that brings us with a $110,000 grand total as it relates to those questions. There's another question as it relates to this case. And the question is, DA, why are we at this stage doing this? I think most people know about the reward that's come up today, but why are we doing our efforts today as opposed to waiting till after the fact to see if someone may or may not be arrested and apprehended on this case? Yeah.
Well, the reason why we're doing this is because this case now starts to get cold, right? This murder occurred earlier this month. There hasn't been an apprehension in this case. We recognize that this is a case that involves a minor. It involves a minor that was being potentially trafficked. There are many components to this. There may be other children that are at risk here, and that's why it's so important that we solve this case. And we know, and I know this from being years in the business, murders, investigations do not get better with time. You know, the longer that it goes, the more difficult it becomes to apprehend the assailant and to put a criminal case together. And that is the reason why we're bringing this up to the public's attention, because the reward that is being offered by our elected officials at the county, city, and state level are important to be highlighted. And I think it was discussed earlier, but I think it bears mentioning that often the killing of African American, especially children, are sometimes not as highlighted in our media, unfortunately, as other murders are. And we want to make sure that there is given attention, and if anybody has any information in this case, that information is provided to the California Highway Patrol as soon as possible so that we can bring this case to justice.
Thank you so much, DA. And thank you all the panelists here today for everything that you do. This is an incredible effort and a show of force. And we really hope that the perpetrator of this crime is apprehended. With that, our press conference is over today. But for any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to our media relations team. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everyone.